Welcome everybody to Call It in the Ring. It's uncooked, uncut, and uncensored. My name is Marcus Stewart, and we are talking about Monday Night Raw, the October 1st, 2018 show, the first Raw of Halloween month. That is what you call October, Halloween month. We are live in Seattle, Washington, and it's also the go-home show for the Super Show in Australia, taking place this Saturday in Melbourne, and one of the three shows that WWE has been building towards simultaneously. We're finally going to knock one of those out this weekend, which makes me a very pleased panda. But let's get right to it. So, Dean Ambrose comes to the ring alone, non-Shield gear, and he's doing an in-ring interview with Charlie Caruso, and she's asking him about what is going on with his head right now in regards to the possible wedge that Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre attempted to drive between him and the Shield last week, and how the last week ended with him seemingly pledging his allegiance to the Shield. And Dean gives a really good promo talking about all of the kind of hypothetical things that he might be thinking, or others think he's got in his mind, saying how maybe he is, he's not, despite Drew and the villains, what they were saying, that there's a lot of truth to what they were saying. Seth and Roman are champions, and he's not. And since he's gotten back, he has spent almost all of his time cleaning up their messes. And that Seth and Roman are champions somewhat because of it. And he's got nothing. And then he talks about possibly turning on the Shield or breaking away from the Shield, saying that maybe he really is over the Shield. Maybe it doesn't mean as much to him as it used to. And maybe what he's doing is he's just biding his time until he finds the perfect moment to drive the knife in their backs. And Dean's not really being comical saying this. He sounds very serious, which has been his part of the course for his new personality change. Where, he's just been more serious in general. But he says all of this rather menacingly to make you think like, maybe? And like his delivery with this whole promo is fantastic. And I've always been a big fan of Dean Ambrose, but this current incarnation has been really, really fun to watch. And even Charlie Caruso is looking concerned, like, oh my God, like, are you going to do something? And then she finally asks where kind of Dean stands. And Dean, despite saying all of these threatening hypothetical things, he reaffirms that he is Shield through and through, because the Shield isn't a brand. It's not just a marketing thing. It's a brotherhood. And that, basically he would not turn on something as tight as their brotherhood. This brings out Baron Corbin, who protests Dean's notion that the Shield are all good to go. Dean brings up that Corbin has failed so far at stopping the Shield from doing more or less whatever they want. And Corbin's like, you know what, I agree. You guys might have won that battle last week in the main event, but I don't believe that you're totally, what you say you are, that you are 100% cool. So I'm going to give you an option, or several options. Tonight, you're going to be in a match. One of three. You pick which one you want to be in. You can either battle Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. You can battle Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Or you can take on Braun Strowman. And Dean takes about a few seconds to think about this. And Corbin kind of has this like gotcha look on his face. And Dean eventually says, I know what you're trying to do. And it's not going to work. I'm not going to, you can't just dangle carrots in front of me like that. So I'm going to fight Braun. And Corbin goes, all right, well, here's Braun right now. The match is next. And that's our first match of the night. Braun Strowman versus Dean Ambrose. Nice David and Goliath match, which I guess would be every match that Braun Strowman is involved in. But Dean being his scrappy self, hung in there and told a good story of him fighting from underneath. Had some nice kind of comeback spots where he's getting in these submissions and countering Braun's moves into submissions to try to wear him down. And again, Dean just kind of getting to show off his new repertoire. But eventually, Braun is still a bit too much for Dean. He eventually hits his running power slam and is just kind of messing him up here. But before Braun can finish him off, Roman Reigns' music hits. He comes to the ring to aid his lunatic buddy. Roman comes in, hits a Superman punch on Braun, which draws a DQ, giving Braun the victory. Post-match, the other villains show up and start beating on Roman. Seth Rollins arrives, and then eventually Corbin comes back out and makes 2 matches for later. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, and Roman Reigns versus Dolph Ziggler, which is going to happen right now. And I just want to point out that Dolph doing Braun's pose, he looks like a real big dork. Doesn't work for him. Let's see. We take a quick break and then we come backstage with Dean getting checked out at the trainer's room. Seth Rollins comes in to check on Dean, make sure he's okay. Dean is noticeably annoyed because he thought that he had Braun and kind of gets upset, blows up a little bit when Seth keeps kind of asking, hey, we're just here, you good? And then Dean throws his ice pack across the room. And then he says that, what's crazy is that right now, I could be the Intercontinental Champion. And then just kind of leaves. And Seth is looking a bit at a loss for words there. So interesting little segment there. This takes us back to our next match, Dolph Ziggler versus Roman Reigns. And immediately I looked at this match and I thought, have these two ever fought before? Like in a singles match? I can't remember. For some reason, this match seemed very weird and fresh. I'm trying to remember if these guys have ever had a one-on-one match. They had to have had. I mean, like televised, obviously, house shows and stuff, maybe. But I'm struggling to think, at least in recent history, like the last 2 or 3 years, if these guys have ever... Definitely, I don't think they have since the brand split, because Dolph was on SmackDown for a long time, and only recently came to Raw. So, I don't know. I was just watching, I was like, I can't remember these guys ever going off. But they had a good match, as you would expect from these two. Even people that think Roman Reigns is the worst wrestler alive on planet Earth. But, oh yeah, and it's worth pointing out before the match, Roman was apparently wanting to put the Universal title on the line, because that's his thing now. He wants to defend the title basically every time he does anything. Whatever match he wants to have, he wants it to be for the Universal title. Whenever he goes out to eat, he wants it to be for the Universal title. When he meets with fans and signs them autographs, he wants to put the title on the line against them. He wants to defend that thing 24/7. When his wife comes to kiss him, it's a Universal title match. He's really proud to be champion. He tries to do that here, but Corbin comes out and says, no, this is going to be non-title. And also, that title will not be defended until Crown Jewel, which is the other pay-per-view. That's the second Saudi Arabia show that's going on in November, I believe. So until then, pretty much that title is frozen. And you can't defend it, which I was like, if I was Dolph Ziggler, I'd be pretty upset with that, because he was about to get a Universal title match for nothing. So it kind of screws over Dolph's ally, so to speak. But I guess at the same time, he has to look out for Braun. But then again, hypothetically, if Dolph were to win the title, that would not change the match in terms of, Braun would still get a Universal title triple threat. It would just be against Ziggler taking Roman's spot. So I was like, that kind of unintentionally screws your friend over, but I digress. But yeah, this was a nice back and forth match. It ends with Roman hitting a somewhat awkward spear, kind of like Dolph or Roman. Both of them, their timing was a bit off, so Dolph wasn't quite ready for it. So they had this kind of weird pause, and then Dolph just kind of jumps into it. But Dolph loses. Roman stands tall. Universal champ. We go right to our next match after this. So notice we already have 3 matches within the first hour. This first hour is very wrestling heavy, which I'm not complaining about. we've got Ruby Riott taking on Ronda Rousey. Another TV outing for Ronda, and if this doesn't prove that she is not Brock Lesnar, then I don't know what will in terms of, you know, when she signed it, she said that she was here full time, and that is exactly what she's been, so good for her. Liv Morgan appears to be okay, so I think, if you remember last week in the tag match with the Bella Twins and Natalya taking on the Riott Squad, there was a part that I pointed out last week where Brie was doing her yes kicks and nailed Liv in the head, which knocked her out. I didn't know last week what it was exactly, but in the week since, I've learned that she was had a concussion and was legitimately knocked out during the match and was taken to the back, or taken outside actually. They said she went to the back, but she didn't. But Liv appears to be okay here. She's in the match. They cut a little those selfie promo backstage with them basically saying, "Hey, we're gonna win." Liv also has pink hair now. She was kicked so hard that she thinks that she's Tomba, the old PlayStation 1 platformer by Whoopi Games. I'm going to drop obscure game references on this wrestling show, but that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh, she's like a sexy Tomba. But, you know, she seems to be okay, relatively, which is good. And the Bella Twins were also out there in support of Ronda. This was a nice match. Ronda going beast mode for a bit on Ruby before Ruby got the upper hand. Of course, the Riott Squad doing their thing, offering distractions, and then the Bellas trying to counteract that. There was at one point where Ruby got a really close near fall where one distraction got her a very good roll up where I think she tried to pull the shorts. But eventually Ronda went Rousey mode. She said, "It's time to get Rousey." That's her famous catchphrase that she always says, you know, not even time to get rowdy. She's like, "It's time to get Rousey." She should say that. If she starts saying that, I expect to be credited for it. But she does that snap Samoan drop thing and then locks in that armbar, and it's good for the tap out. So this was a good match. I have said before that I think that Ruby Riott is a really good opponent for a title feud because she has the Riott Squad to kind of counteract Ronda's sheer beastliness. So this seems to be like they kind of took that and made like a little mini feud out of it. But maybe in the future we can revisit this if Ronda is still champion at that point. But this kind of validated what I always thought, that these two would be these two plus the Riott Squad would be a cool meshing of forces. So good match. Next up, straight to another match. Once again, we've got Bobby Roode taking on Connor, the most winning performer now, Connor of the Ascension, who shocked the world when he picked up a win, the Ascension's first televised win in what feels like forever. And granted, it was in a singles match, but hey, the Ascension winning anything at all. I don't care if it's checkers. I don't care if they won a Slammy for most losing tag team. I don't care if Victor won Fortnite, which honestly, that's probably harder than winning a match in WWE is winning a Battle Royale in Fortnite. At least for me, I've never won. Granted, I don't play a ton of Fortnite, but still, that'd be pretty impressive. But the point is that the Ascension winning anything is an achievement. We will be asking ourselves, where were you when Connor picked up that victory last week? And we're going to be asking again this week because he fights Bobby Roode and he wins again. And granted, he was a light distraction from Victor where Gable was doing his cheerleader thing because he's very happy. He is so happy to be teaming with Bobby Roode. He is just a ball of exuberance. And I also thought that Gable's hoodie that he was wearing looked a lot like Seth Rollins' attire from WrestleMania 31, the kind of like gray, black, and gold vest thing that he was wearing. Go look it up, nerds, if you're a nerd like me. But yeah, Connor again hits his like Dominator thing and wins the match. So it's just like, I literally wrote it down and Connor wins again in all caps with a few exclamation points. Like, holy, what is happening in WWE right now? And the announcers were kind of selling Connor as a singles guy, which maybe that's where this leads to, is like maybe the Ascension will split and go their separate ways and Connor gets a push. He's been cutting some pretty decent, like those little inset promos before the match. He did one last week and he did one this week. That's not bad, not too shabby. He's got a quiet intensity about him that I kind of dig. And honestly, I would rather see more of him than so Mojo Rawley, who I only now realize I have not seen on TV in months. Maybe I'm assuming he's hurt because there's no reason, or he did something bad, but I'm gonna guess that he's hurt. I don't know for sure, but he's not been on TV in quite some time. But before he slipped into the void, he was getting a nice little push as a heel, and maybe that should go to Connor. I mean, it's not like essentially could do anything else. It's a team. And Raw already has more than enough heel tag teams, as I'll touch on a little bit later. So yeah, maybe, why not? Big guy, got a good look, cuts a nice, quiet, tense promo, and he just beat the former NXT champion and TNA World Champion in Bobby Roode. So wow, what a time to be alive. The Ascension are actually accomplishing things. Next up, we get a moment of bliss. Which it's been a while since we had one of these. Remember, this is Alexa Bliss's kind of personal segments where she's basically pretends to be a victim of something and is just being a jerk. And she talks about how when she was 7 years old, that Trish Stratus, WWE Hall of Famer, 7-time Women's Champion, one of the best women of all time, Trish Stratus, was her hero. She loved Trish Stratus. That was her girl. And how apparently when she was young, she met Trish at some sort of event and came to her with a little autograph book and was like, "Oh my God, can you sign my thing?" And then Trish burped in her face and then said, "Yeah, sure, for $50." And then Alexa reminded her, like, I'm 7, but Trish was not having any of that. Apparently, and said, cash, give me the cash, because I forgot what Alexa said, but according to her, Trish made some comment like money or something. Autograph books don't buy something, basically implying that Trish needs the money to buy something expensive. And then she snatched her autograph book, which was Alexa's life, like just her world, and then tore it up in front of Alexa's. Now, obviously, this is Alexa being a jerk because she is facing Trish Stratus in somewhat of a dream match at Evolution. Because I and many others have compared Alexa to a modern day Trish because they're very, very similar, especially in personality. So yeah, this is her kind of taking shots at Trish right now. Again, this among other things in the show, it gets weird with the various build-ups to the different shows. You kind of have to remember, like, oh yeah, that's this thing that they were talking about. So the show is still kind of all over the place, but this was a funny little segment. Next up, we got the B Team taking on the Revival. And the B Team wins. I thought that we were done with the B Team, at least in terms of winning. I was like, oh, I guess they've kind of, now that they kind of had the spotlight taken away, they're going back to their old ways of losing. But no, they go back to their not so old ways of winning by reversing a frog splash from, I don't remember which Revival member it was. Might have been, I think it was Dash Wilder. But he gets the knees up. I believe it was Bo. And rolls him up for the win. Kind of like another fluke victory, which is interesting. I mean, Revival, I think it's been known I'm a Revival fan. I have been since NXT. They're awesome. And they had that pretty kick-ass tag title match the week before, so I was kind of like bummed out to see them lose this here after that really good match last week. But the B Team don't get to celebrate long because as they're walking up the ramp, somebody somewhere must have shouted, "You down with AOP? Yeah, you know me." Because the AOP come from behind and attack the B Team and just murder them, hit the Super Collider. Drake Maverick is not in his dorky looking mini AOP gear, but rather he is in a much better looking, just simple street clothes, just some jeans, black shirt, black leather jacket. It looks more like a manager and not like a kid brother that's tagging along with the authors. So he should stick with that look. It's kind of like actually it's more of like a cooler version of what Paul Ellering, the AOP's former manager, used to wear. Kind of like he took his look and gave it a younger spin on it. So he should stick to that. But yeah, AOP kills the B Team. I can only assume that this is kind of another step towards them going after the tag titles, but there are no good guy tag teams on Raw that are credible. The B team literally is the top because now that the Matt Hardy has officially retired, the Deleters of Worlds are done, and they were the top face tag team, and even they were kind of a jokey team, and the B team is absolutely a jokey team. So there's no serious face tag teams on Raw, which is a very big problem, especially when you have heel champions. And so who takes them away it's a really great question. Barring they call up a team from NXT, or they move a team over to Raw like the Usos. Excuse me. Backstage, Roman goes to check on Dean, and he kind of gets the same cold shoulder treatment, though this time Dean doesn't have an actual ice pack on his shoulder. And Dean gets, annoyed with Roman being a good friend, I guess. He's checking up on him. I mean, I guess the idea is that Dean, being a tough guy is kind of tired of this, hey, are you okay? Like, maybe thinking that they think that he can't handle himself. And then he kind of drops the same line saying that, if I wasn't such a nice guy, I could be the Universal Champion right now. And then walks away. And then Roman, much like Seth, is a bit taken aback by this. Baron Corbin's backstage, and he's congratulating the authors of Pain. He says, hey, you guys are awesome. I like the way you eat people. Charlie Caruso is then in the ring, and she kicks off Breast Cancer Month. It's that magical time of the year in October where WWE is partnering up with Susan G. Komen. And the pink rope, surprisingly, was not around the ring tonight, even though it's October. Maybe they'll put that there next week. But yep, it's that month of breast cancer. Dana Warrior was in the crowd, along with some other people, like a doctor and a fundraiser. And this is just kind of the big kickoff for the event. Yes, you say what you want about Susan G. Komen, whether or not you believe they're totally on the up and up or not. The overall message is nice. Breast cancer sucks. Then it's cool that WWE wants to help. Whether or not you agree with the specific charity that they hook up with is your own thing. But yeah, so we got another month of this, as we do every year. So strap in, folks. But yeah, breast cancer sucks. We should do something about that. Next up, Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins, aka Seth Rollins taking on his bigger, meaner older brother. This was a great back and forth match between two of the best on the roster and two of my personal faves. I love me some Seth, and I especially love me some Drew. Beginning the match, Drew slaps the crap out of Seth, and he yells that I think he says, like, I'm going to make this bloody short, I assure you. Like he says, which, God, Drew is so good at being an intense douchebag. But this is another great kind of, speed versus power, even though McIntyre is quite the agile man for being a behemoth in his own right. But yeah, some great counters here. There was a cool moment where Seth countered that, I don't even think he has a name for this move that Drew does, but when he's hanging a dude on his back, like he has their legs and they're like dangling behind him, and then he swings them forward by their legs to kind of face plant them. Like Seth showing off that core strength from CrossFit, kind of sits himself up and rolls over and turns it into almost like a sunset, not quite a sunset flip, but he just rolls over it turns into a pin. I thought that was pretty impressive. And another really impressive thing was that he kept trying to get Drew into the running buckle bomb, which is very hard to do because Drew is a very tall and very large man. But then eventually he wears Drew down enough to where he does it, and he runs across the ring holding this giant Scottish man and hits a buckle bomb, showing off that Seth is one of the maybe the most deceptively strong superstars on the roster. Because you look at him, and yeah, he's jacked. But he's also very lean, and he's more of a high flyer, and you forget that he's got some power in there as well. So that was a nice showcase for him. But unfortunately, it was not enough because, I think I forgot to mention this. So right before this match, there's a backstage segment where Braun Strowman is talking with Dolph and Drew, and Braun is hyping up Drew, saying, like, you need to win because Braun demands winners. And he straight up says, like, we need winners. We need winners. We need to get these wins. And then he looks right at Dolph and says, we don't need weak links. Of course, talking about how earlier Dolph was defeated by Roman. And then they both walk away. And Dolph is looking a little concerned, a little sad. So during this match with Seth and Drew, towards the end, Ziggler runs out and offers a quick distraction, which allows Drew to hit the Claymore on Seth to give him the win. And then post-match, the two villains are double-teaming Seth. This brings out Roman Reigns, which behind him brings out Braun Strowman, which behind him brings out Dean Ambrose, with an axe handle. Again, axe handles are a thing. The new signature weapon of the Shield, the old axe handle, which sounds like a Vince McMahon thing, like a quirk, like one of his, like, kind of like his moods of, like, you know what's great? Axe handles. Axe handle, what a devastating weapon. Give him some axe handles. Like, of all the blunt objects you can give the Shield, that is one of them. It's weird. But he comes out, tries to get some shots in with that handle, but it doesn't work. He get the Shield get beaten down by the evil Shield. That's not gonna work. I was gonna combine Shield and evil into a word, like Shield, evil, bad Shield, Shield, Muy Maul, Shield. I don't know, not good Shield. They get beaten down and just destroy them. And then after they beat them down, the villains, to really rub the salt in the open wound, they do the Shield fist bump on top of the Shield's broken bodies. And that wraps up Monday Night Raw, leaving us wondering what's going to happen at the Super... Oh, shit, wait. Actually, no. We got a whole another hour to go. I was like, watching that live, that really did feel like the end of the show. I was like, man, that seems... Okay, I guess we're done. I was like, oh, wait, no. We got it. That was only like the second hour main event. Like, but man, does it feel like that should have wrapped up the show. It had that feeling. So, never mind. We're still going. Elias is backstage with Kevin Owens, and he's showing off his setup that Elias's handlers give him, like I don't know what you call it, but like, you know, when you're like a celebrity or a musician, when they're backstage and they get like food set up for them at their request of like, I want a jar of only blue M&Ms, and like crazy requests like that. Elias has that with his dudes, and Kevin's very impressed because he has a triangle of water bottles. He's got some fresh lettuce, or spinach, I should say. But there's a problem because he has a thing of nuts that were supposed to be almonds, but they're cashews. And apparently Elias hates cashews, and Kevin's like, dude, I thought you hated cashews. And Elias is like, I do. And then he throws the cashews in the face of the handler for failing because he had one job, one nut to get, and you got, not only did you get the wrong nut, but you got the nut that apparently Elias hates the most. So don't give Elias cashews is the life lesson of the day. Next up, we get a WWE 2K19 video that's pretty cool. This is closer to what I expect from these videos, because lately they've been showing that gameplay video, which, as a gamer, it's cool to see just pure gameplay, but I like those 2K commercials, the more creative ones that use the actual roster. So this was more in line with that. I was a big fan of the, was it last year with the rap that Snoop Dogg did? I think so. I'm pretty sure that was last year's ad, when you're in front of the TVs, the Be Like No One thing. I'm pretty sure that was last year's one, but I was a big fan of that rap. So this was closer to something like that. Next up, we get maybe the segment of the night, with Elias and Kevin Owens doing their, sitting in the ring. You know, it's set up like Elias's concert, only Kevin is also sitting with them on stools. They got the spotlight, the whole deal. And they talk about how, you know, at the Super Showdown, they're going to be taking on Bobby Lashley and the returning John Cena, who has been MIA, I'm pretty sure since WrestleMania. Right? Has he had him? I feel like, man, I'm trying to think if he's had an appearance or a match since he got annihilated by Undertaker at WrestleMania, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, he's coming back for this Australia show. And they take turns ripping on John Cena, saying like, you know, he's been living up to his gimmicks, that we can't see him, and we haven't for some time now. And then Elias says that, because they talk about how they're a great team and that they're just a couple of great guys. unlike Bobby Lashley and Cena, and Elias drops the bomb of the night saying that them teaming makes about as much sense as Seattle having a basketball team. And as the kids like to say, Seattle was triggered by that line because they erupt in boos, like just boos. And I only figured out kind of like through context clues as this promo kept going that, because I don't watch sports, I don't know, I haven't heard anything about this, but apparently Seattle lost their basketball team recently. I don't know what team Seattle had in the first place, or was this like, or maybe not like super recently, was it a while ago? It was because I remember when I was a kid, the Seattle had the Supersonics, but they've been like done for a long time. Like I definitely know that, so I don't recall them getting another team after the Supersonics, but that's what they were alluding to when they mentioned it. So it must be a relatively fresh wound because they freaked out like the audience. And throughout the rest of the promo, Kevin and Elias literally have to yell at each other because the booing is nonstop. Like, it was some unreal heat for that line. And you can tell that Elias and Kevin are just reveling in this. Like, they just keep going and they continue to take shots at Seattle as they are ripping apart John Cena and Bobby Lashley. Eventually, as they're going for a while, Lio Rush interrupts, and this kind of dies the crowd down a bit, but they're still very rowdy. And then he kind of talks about how John Cena's a legend, and like John Cena, he's a legend, and did like that Lio Rush voice. And to Leo's credit, again, I've said before that I'm very impressed with his promo skills. He did not strike me as much of a talker when he was in NXT, but he holds his own with this crowd. I mean, granted, the crowd isn't really freaking out on him. They're still freaking out on the villains, but, he still has to kind of talk over him, and I thought he did a pretty good job navigating that. He didn't seem shaken up by the reaction he was walking into, and he held his own in a way that kind of, it seemed beyond his years, the experience, or the way he was handling this promo. I was just watching, I was like, okay, he's not letting this rattle him at all. He's kind of holding, like he would pause when it felt right to pause and just let things kind of soak in. He didn't try to rush through or speak over them. He seemed to pick his spots of knowing when to talk in a way that you don't often see from guys that really aren't known for talking or get I mean, granted, again, I don't watch 205 Live, so I don't know what his promo ability was, like if he was getting a ton of promo time there, but since he's been on Raw, this is only like his third or fourth, and man, he's already up there, maybe among the best talkers in the company. But he kind of does his thing, hyping up Bobby Lashley, hyping up this match, and then the crowd is still freaking out, and then Elias grabs the mic again and screams that your team left you to again just reinforcing this very sensitive topic for the city of Seattle. If you're listening and from Seattle, please tell me what the exact deal is. They also mentioned that Oklahoma City makes more sense for a basketball team. So then because I know Oklahoma City has the Thunder, and they win things, like they're a good team from what I understand. They win championships. Were they from Seattle and then they moved to Oklahoma City? Is that the connection? Or what is it exactly that pissed off Seattle so bad? But that also, Corey Graves drops a great line saying that Lio Rush sounds like Meatwad from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which popped both Renee Young, who got a kick out of that, as well as myself. That was a pretty sharp observation from Corey Graves. And then this entire hilarious, just great segment. Honestly, go look up this segment just because you really don't hear crowd reactions that passionate, especially heat, like genuine anger like that anymore in modern WWE. So go look that up because it's really something else. This leads to our match, Kevin Owens versus Lashley. This is a decent back and forth match, nothing really special, but Kevin picks up the win after Elias goes after Lio Rush, and unfortunately Lio is not able to Spider-Man his way out of this situation because Elias grabs him and puts him in a full Nelson. which makes it look like he's just assaulting a small, like, middle school child. And is just holding him there. He's doing the master lock, like Chris Masters back in the day. And Lashley, distracted by his 9-year-old cousin getting snatched up, allows Kevin to get him from behind and get a pin. And then after the match, the villains double team Lashley. Leo tries to help. He climbs the top rope and tries to jump on both of them, but Elias straight up just swats him out of the air, just knocks him out, man. You know, hey, even, you know, Spider-Man has his rough spots too. He can't win them all. And then eventually, Kevin hits the pop-up powerbomb on Lashley, which is a move that I feel like you don't see all that often anymore for some reason. Lately, it feels like a novelty to see the pop-up powerbomb. But he does it to him here. And then Kevin and Elias share a big old hug. And man, for a guy as abrasive as Kevin Owens is built to be, he's really good at making friends. You know, he's had Chris Jericho, he had Sami Zayn, and right now he's got Elias. That seems to be like his new gimmick, is that he's great at somehow finagling friends, and also all three of his friends have great chemistry with him. Like, he always is good at forming a hilarious duo with somebody. Speaking of duos, we've got Bayley, accompanied by her Mixed Match Challenge partner Finn Balor, taking on Alicia Fox, accompanied by her Mixed Match Challenge partner Jinder Mahal. The team of Mahalisha, which is a hilariously dumb name, and also sounds like a legit name. I could see someone be like, hey, Mahalisha, get over him. Come on. Bayley and Balor's team is B&B, which is not the most creative thing in the world. It makes me think of, obviously, the Airbnb. I don't know if Bayley and Balor are going to be renting out homes to people to stay. The house is filled with both inflatable balloons and demon balloons. That's what they should have. Bayley's entrance, you know, she does her inflatable tube men entrance, and I think that it should have, they should all have little leather jackets on them to really sell their cohesiveness, Balor and Bayley. But, and also, as Jinder makes his way to the ring, Cole slips up and refers to Sunil Singh as Ranjan Singh. If anyone does not know or remember Ranjan Singh, he was the old manager for the Great Khali, like 10 years ago. And I believe is also a part of the WWE creative team, or I don't know if he still is, but he was for some time. Which basically what I'm getting at is that Michael Cole is a racist. Thinks all Indian people are the same. I'm just kidding. He's not a racist. But Bayley beats Alicia Fox with a really awkward Bayley to belly, which, to be fair, that's like half of her Bayley to belly, is because the Bayley to belly is not the best finishing move, as much as I love Bayley. These two teams will be facing off in the Mixed Match Challenge, I believe, tomorrow night after SmackDown. Yeah, just a nothing match. Finn Balor really needs something to do. And this brings us to our final segment of the night. Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, my all-time favorite wrestler, coming out to give us the last kind of the hard sell for the Undertaker versus Triple H match at the Super Show. Shawn's hair looks noticeably shorter than normal, and we'll get to the reason why in a bit. But he comes out and does what you would expect. He shills the Australia show. He talks about having to buy a ticket to go there, which is for him is a big deal because he is notoriously cheap. Because he was originally going to go as a fan to just watch his friend take on one of the most respected opponents that he's ever faced in The Undertaker for the last time. So he wanted to be there for that. But then he got sucked into this whole thing with Undertaker getting offended that Shawn thinks that Triple H will beat him. And then Shawn reiterates that he will always pick Triple H to win a fight any day of the week, no matter who it is, because that's his bro. And then he issues a warning to Kane. Because, of course, last week, I think it was last week, Undertaker announced that Kane will be in his corner to counteract Shawn being in Triple H's corner. And Shawn says, Kane, if you do anything, if you stick your big red hand in this match, or you try to pull some stuff, I'm going to be right there, and I'm going to hit some sweet chin music and knock you on your back. Unfortunately, as soon as you see Kane's name, his music hits, and he appears behind Shawn, and Shawn turns around and just gets decked. And then as soon as he hits the ground, we hear a gong. And then The Undertaker appears in the ring. So Shawn is in some deep doo-doo here, being surrounded by the Brothers of Destruction. But Triple H comes out to save the day as Shawn is about to get tombstoned by Undertaker, which knocks off his hat and reveals that Shawn is bald. Like, he's freaking bald. He has shaved the rest of his hair. Because before he just cut his ponytail, but he still had short hair. Now he's bald. He has a bandana on underneath, but it's like, it's not a full bandana. It's like, it doesn't cover his bald head, basically. And my eyes almost burned out of my skull because I still wasn't even used to short-haired Shawn. And so I was less prepared for bald Shawn, even though the writing was on the wall for that for some time now. But my lord, I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm sure it's better for him. Probably feels nice, especially he hunts and stuff like that. Probably nice breezy up there, and it's less maintenance. But damn it, I don't like bald Shawn Michaels. But the DX kind of gets their asses handed to him by the Brothers of Destruction. Triple H tries to fight them both off. He eventually goes down to them. And then the two guys, Shawn tries to help too. We get to see Shawn get physical for the first time in some time. But the brothers, the real ones, or I guess they're not really brothers, the canonically closer brothers, hit stereo choke slams on DX and leave him lying. But as they go to leave, Triple H kind of starts to recover because it's Triple H. He's not going to sell a choke slam. Come on now. Don't be ridiculous. So Taker's like, bitch, please, and goes back in there. And he tombstones Triple H, which seems to me to signal that Triple H is definitely going to win on Sunday, which, sure, I guess. I mean, it doesn't really matter who wins this match because neither guy needs to win. I would only want Undertaker to win because I like Undertaker a lot more. But it doesn't matter who wins this. And this segment was kind of cool just to see these four tied up. Even though the reveal of Shawn's bald head had about the same effect on me as the Ark of the Covenant being opened up in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, my face just started melting and my eyes burned out. But I'm more excited for this match to finally be done because for outside of the nostalgia, it doesn't really serve any purpose. It doesn't tie into any of the current major storylines. It's just been its own kind of nostalgia trip that honestly kind of, and it just, because it doesn't really fuel anything going on with the current roster. Like, it's not like one of these guys is interacting with the Shield or Balor or whoever. It just feels pointless because with a match where it doesn't matter who wins because it's not going to go anywhere after it, it's hard to get into outside of, oh man, I grew up with all these guys. It's cool to see them in the ring again. But other than that, in terms, for the sake of long-term advancement, there's none of that. So, I guess, you kind of have to enjoy it as the nostalgia act that it is. I think because we've been kind of had it shoved in our faces every week, it's been a little bit more, I would say annoying, maybe, so to speak, but just they've been very in your face about this match, and it's been hard for me to really care about it outside of the, again, nostalgia. So I'm looking forward to the Super Show coming and going, and we can finally focus on only building towards 2 shows at the same time as opposed to 3. I haven't really talked about if I would be doing a review of the Super Show. So it airs live this Saturday at 5 a.m. for the States. I don't know if that's 5 a.m. like Pacific or Eastern, or what it is, but it's gonna be early as hell. I just because of my personal schedule with like work and other things, I'm trying to figure out when I'm gonna be able to fit it in. I probably won't be able to watch it till Sunday. So I will most likely record a review of it. I mean, may as well at this point, considering we've been talking about it so much, and a lot of stories have been built up to it, so talk about how it all paid off. So yeah, I will probably do a review of it, depending on, I don't know when it'll be posted. It depends on when I get around to watching it, because it will probably be a very long show if the Greatest Royal Rumble was any indication. So yeah, keep an eye out maybe around this weekend or Monday for a Super Show review. Though I don't know when yet, but that's a rough timeline. But other than that, solid Raw, some good wrestling, some good back wrestling in the first half of it or so. I've already said that my sentiments about the scatterbrained, kind of everything building towards different things at the same time is kind of a problem, as well as all of the championships being absorbed into this one storyline of the Shield versus Ziggler, McIntyre, and Strowman, because there's nothing else, there's no other title programs that can happen because everything is in that match. So that's another reason why I'm excited for Australia, because we'll be done with this faction war hopefully, and then the titles can go back to being defended or having stories built around them specifically. So yeah, the Raw's been very top heavy because literally everything of note is at the top, leaving not much for anyone that's not one of those 6 men much to do or to chase. So hopefully next Monday we can start remedying that. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to find me on Twitter and share your thoughts about what you think about Raw, the Super Show, or wrestling in general, you can hit me up at MarcusStewart7. That is the number 7. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, and Podbean. You can find me at Marcus Writes About Games. And as always, thanks for listening, fans, and I will see you in Australia. Good day, mates.